Now, at the end of the Seven-Year War in 1763, the British government was desirous of reducing its costly military force. Thus, the entire English army was reduced to just about 45,000 men, 15,000 of these being tasked with defending colonies that stretched around the entire globe. Now, getting these numbers back up to meet the demand caused by the American Revolution would prove very difficult. For the average young man in Britain, there was little allure to joining the military. Britain was still an agricultural country, and jobs as well as food were plentiful. To join the army meant poor pay, about $1.25 or 1.03 pounds in today's wages, not the wages of the time, but today's wages. There was harsh discipline, with lashing being a common punishment for even minor infractions, bad food, and the prospect of fighting fellow Englishmen, as the colonists were still considered. Now, the billets and barracks for the troops were usually dirty and in poor repair, and it was more likely that the average soldier would sleep under canvas rather than a roof. And finally, once a young man signed up, service ranged from 3 to 5 years up to a lifetime commitment, while postings abroad could stretch for decades. Now, while Germans, Scots, paupers, and criminals were easier to recruit, it was much harder to get the able-bodied English, Irish, or Welshmen to sign their names on the line. So press gangs began to roam the countryside, taking men as old as 50 years. Now, as the terms for volunteering were better than for those who had been pressed into service, volunteer enlistments finally began to increase as the Revolutionary War progressed. Now, the infantry was organized into battalions of about 500 men. They usually consisted of roughly 10 companies, and the biggest and strongest in the battalion were assigned to the Grenadier Company, who no longer hurled grenades as the name would hint at, while the men who were both wiry and good marksmen were formed into the Light Infantry Company. Now, these two specialized companies would fight from the flanks of the battalion. And in contrast to what the movies present, the British troops quickly gave up fighting in rigid European formations, favoring looser, more open tactics, in many ways very similar to their American foe. Gear was heavy, with the kit weighing about 60 pounds, though much of the extraneous parade ground gear was jettisoned as the war progressed. And infantry were armed with the notoriously inaccurate Brown Bess musket, while the cavalry had a lighter carbine. Daily rations included a pound of bread, a pound of salted beef or pork, a half pint of dried peas or beans, and an ounce of butter or cheese, and about the same amount of either oats or rice. And meals consisted of gruel for breakfast, often with sugar, meat and greens for lunch, and butter, bread, and cheese for dinner. And beverages included a daily ration of beer, watered-down rum, rice water, and barley water in the summer. And in the field, hardtack was often issued for meals, and it was customarily broken up with cannonballs to make it into a kind of gruel. Of course, this food was often old and spoiled, the choice bits being sold off on the black market by dishonest quartermasters. Now, surprisingly, without approval from officers, pillaging for food was often discouraged, and there's records of a number of British enlistees being hung for stealing from the colonists, who are still seen as Englishmen. And the corruption amongst the logistical part of the army often meant that the average enlisted man faced a constant shortage of not only food, but also clothing and equipment. And this was further compounded by a lack of central authority, as well as a number of overlapping oversights over the quartermasters. Now, for the most part, the officer corps and the NCOs were competent. At that time, the purchase system for officer commissions was in effect, and a rich man could essentially buy officer ranks for their privileged sons. As a side note, buying an ensign's rank would cost about $100,000 today, or 112 pounds, while a full lieutenant colonel would set you back about 900,000 US dollars, or 800,000 British pounds. However, as officers were not forced to serve overseas, the dilettantes usually stayed home, while more skillful and ambitious men sailed to America. And the upper-level officers, including Howe, Burgoyne, Clinton, and Cornwallis, were solid leaders, if not overwhelming military minds. In the war, the British did fight well. They won a majority of the battles, though not the most crucial ones. And this list included Long Island, White Plains, Fort Washington, Brandywine, Germantown, Savannah, Charleston, Camden, and Guilford. In November of 1783, the Redcoats finally sailed for home. Now, the very last man to go lowered the Union flag at Staten Island. Then he cut the halyards and greased the flagpole. And as they rowed away, they had the pleasure of beholding a group of colonists vainly trying to raise the Stars and Stripes. And the colonists didn't succeed until they pounded cleats into the staff and then hammered their flag into place at the top. The British Army had performed surprisingly well, and they'd also been simultaneously fighting battles against Holland, Spain, and France. Most importantly, when they left, they retained control of Canada and the West Indies, which were now their footholds in the Americas. Also by 1783, the army was 110 men strong and had an additional 30,000 German mercenaries. Now, perhaps the best acknowledgement to the Redcoats is written on a small grave monument just a few steps from the Old North Bridge in Concord. They came 3,000 miles and died to keep the past upon its throne. Unheard beyond the ocean tide, their English mother made her moan. This week's game is 1775 Rebellion, and it was part of Academy Games' Birth of America series. It came out in 2013, and its designers were Bo Beckett and Jeff Stahl. Now, looking over the components, we start with the map, and the map's divided into colonies, and these are further subdivided into smaller areas that are divided by these dashed lines. Now, each colony also has a star printed on it that indicates control. Now remember that you control a colony when both of the following conditions are met. First, your side has units in at least one area in the colony, and second, there are no opposing units or independent Native American units in any area of that colony. And Native American units that are allied with your side don't prevent control of a colony. Now note that neutral Native American units don't prevent a side from controlling a colony. Now cities are important as they're the location where reinforcements come into play. There's also water areas, including the Atlantic. There's also rivers and lakes, and these can only be traversed with water movement cards. Now, river crossings are the grayed out areas, and units can cross bodies of water without the water movement cards on these. Now, units that flee from battle are placed in the fled unit space until the next reinforcement phase. Finally, the map has a round and turn track to keep track of time in the game. In the game, there are two sides, the Americans and the British. Now, the British side's broken into two factions, the Patriot Militia, who have the white cards, dice, and cubes, the Continental Army, who have the blue cards, dice, and cubes. Now, the British are also divided into two factions, the Loyalist Militia, who have the yellow cards, dice, and cubes, and finally the British Army, who have the red cards, dice, and cubes. There's also three minor factions, the Hessians in orange, the Native Americans in green, and the French regulars in purple. And minor factions don't have cards, only the dice and cubes. Now, the Hessians are allied with the British side, the French with the Americans, and the natives are neutral. And French and Hessian units come into play when certain event cards are played. Now, the Native American units are neutral until a faction moves into their area, at which point they ally with the side that the invading faction is a member of, and they move and fight for that side. Now, if Native American units are ever left alone in an area, they return to their neutral status. To set up the game, you place the starting cubes in areas according to the number of cubes that are printed on that area. You then place a British control flag on Delaware, Nova Scotia, and Quebec, and you place an American control flag on Rhode Island and Connecticut. Now, for each faction, you make a deck of faction cards 1 through 12, you shuffle them, and then you draw 3 cards into a hand. You also place one of the major faction cubes in a draw bag, and you'll draw each of these out one at a time from that bag and place them in the order that they were drawn on the turn sequence track. Now, this is the order that the faction will go during the first round of play. Now, each player then forms a stockpile of the remaining cubes near their hand, and these will be brought into play as reinforcements. And the French, Native, and Hessian blocks and their associated die are set aside for later usage. Finally, you place the round pawn on the number 1 space of the round track. Now, the game's played over 3 to 8 rounds, and rounds are divided into turns in which each of the 4 major factions takes a specific turn trying to capture territories and hopefully control the colonies. Now, after all 4 factions have taken their respective turn, the round marker is advanced 1 space, and the 4 faction markers are placed back in their bag and redrawn to determine the turn order in the next round. Now, from round 3 onwards, if all 4 factions' truce cards have been played, the game ends and a winner is determined, with the side controlling the most colonies being the winner. Sequence of play is short. When a faction's turn cube is drawn, they become the active faction, and they perform the following turn phase in order. First, reinforcement phase, followed by a movement phase, followed by a battle phase, and finally a draw cards phase. Now, at the start of the reinforcements phase, the faction takes 4 of that faction's units from their stockpile, and all the faction's units from the fled area, and they place them in 1 or more cities in colonies that side has complete control of. Now, if a player's side doesn't control any areas, then the faction reinforcements can't be placed, and if a faction runs out of cubes, they can't place any more of these either. Now, in order to move units or cubes, the faction plays a movement card once per turn from their hand. And playing a movement card is mandatory, though only 1 single card can be played in a faction's turn. Now, if the faction has no movement cards in their hand, they show their 3 event cards to the other player, then they shuffle them back into their faction's draw deck. They then deal themselves 3 cards, and this process repeats until they have at least 1 playable movement card. Now, each movement card indicates how many armies can be formed, 1 army for each soldier icon, and how far those armies can move, and that's the arrow/number icon. Now, armies can include some or all of the units in a single area. There's no stacking limit per se, and they can contain any other allied factions. For example, the Continental Army, the Patriots, the French, and the Native American units could all be formed into a single army if they were in the same area. However, they can't be formed from allied factions that don't contain any of the units of the faction whose turn it is. In each formed army, they may then move the number of areas shown on the card, though they can only move once per movement phase, and they can't pick up or drop off units while moving. And they can only cross rivers at river crossings, and if they enter any area occupied by opposing units or independent Native American units, they have to stop. Now, a water movement card allows an army to move from an area adjoining a water, and in this case water being the oceans and the St. Lawrence River, to any other area adjoining the same water area. And note that the St. Lawrence is considered continuous with the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the gray river crossings mark the end of water areas, and armies moving by water may not move past a river crossing. However, units may move across water areas that are on the same side of the grayed out area. For example, in this case, across Lake Champlain. Now, warship cards allow a player to form one or two armies, according to the number of army icons shown, and move each of these individually across any water area. And the boat cards allow you to form two armies of up to 3 units each in one or two areas adjoining the same water area. Now, both armies may move across the water to the same area. Truce cards are specialized movement cards, and if they're the only movement card in a faction's hand, they have to be played. After being played, they're moved to the side of the board, indicating that that particular faction is involved in the peace talks. However, it has no other influence on movement or combat until all 4 factions have either voluntarily or been forced to play their truce cards, in which case the game ends. Now, if both the British and American sides have units from any of their factions in an area at the end of a movement phase, combat has to occur until one side or the other is entirely removed from that area. Now, if at the end of movement there are battles in multiple areas, then the active faction chooses the order in which these battles are resolved. Now, the active faction side is always the attacker, and the opposing side is always the defender. And the defender always has the advantage of the first die roll to determine combat results. They roll 1 battle die for each of that faction's cubes in the area, up to the number of battle die that a particular faction has. In this case, 3 for the militias and 2 for everybody else. However, note that cubes can outnumber dice in an area. Thus, if the British had 3 cubes in an area, they could roll 2 die during the first round of attacks, and if one of those 3 cubes was lost, they could still use 2 die for the remaining 2 cubes. After the defender's dice are rolled, combat results are applied, and the attacker then gets to do the same. And combat continues to go back and forth like this until all of the units from one side are driven from the area. Now, after your side rolls battle die, you apply the results in the following order. First, you apply flee results, and for every battle die showing a flee icon, the rolling player removes 1 unit of that color from the battle and places it on the fled unit's space. Hit rolls are applied next, and for each battle die showing a hit icon, the opposing side chooses 1 of their units to remove from the battle and return to the reinforcement stockpile. And finally, command results are applied, and for each battle die showing a blank face, the player that rolled it has the choice of making a command move with 1 unit of that color. And remember, that's a choice. They don't have to take it. Now, each command move, or basically retreat, allows the player to move 1 unit out of the battle area into an area adjacent to the battle. And the area moved into may be empty, it can contain allied units, it can contain allied and enemy units, in which case the retreating units would be involved in a second battle during that round, and it can move into an area with neutral native units, in which case the native units would ally with the retreating faction. Now, command moves cannot be across water, so amphibious invasions would not allow this type of retreat, or into areas with only enemy units. And if there's no areas where a command move may be made, the result's ignored. Also, in a battle, if Native American units are on the opposite side at the start of the battle, 1 Native American unit has to flee from both sides. And this process is repeated until only one or neither side has any Native American units remaining. The final phase is the discard played cards phase. Once all of the faction's movement and subsequent combats are resolved, all event and movement cards from that turn are sent to the discard pile. Cards are then drawn to bring the faction player's hand back up to 3 cards. Now, if a player's hand doesn't show any movement cards, the player shows their hand, they return the hand to their draw deck, they shuffle, and they take 3 cards. And this is done until they have a movement card. Also remember that truce cards count as movement cards, and they have to be played if they're the only movement card in a player's hand. Now, event cards have a notation telling what phase they can be played in during a faction's turn. Now, if a faction has 2 event cards in their hand, they can play both of them in the same turn. However, a faction's event cards cannot be played during the turn of another allied faction. Now, as I've hinted at before, after all 4 truce cards have been played, the game immediately ends and the players count up how many colonies their side controls. And the side that controls the most colonies is the winner. If both sides have the same number of colonies, the game is a draw. Alrighty, folks, I'm back with 1775 Rebellion. And I've got it all set up here. I've put the cubes in their respective positions. Mostly got the Native Americans here on the west frontier and the British up in Canada, and then just distributed along the coast here. And then I've got a number of, I've got to put in my control markers. Now, Quebec is British controlled, Nova Scotia is British controlled, and Delaware is British controlled, and then the Americans control Connecticut and Rhode Island. So that's pretty much, that's I think everything. I've given each faction a hand of cards. I got to draw from the bag to see the turn sequence order. So it's going to start with the Continental Army. It's going to go then to the Tory militia, then go to the British regulars, and finally go to the Patriots, the rebel militia. So I'll probably start using, you'll hear me use colors a lot here. I'll say blue and yellow rather than say the factions that each one are each time. So hopefully you'll have that pretty clear about which color's who. Okay, let's start with the Continental Army. And I've got 4 cards. Now, first thing I'm going to do is draw the reinforcements. And the reinforcements have to be played into areas that they control. So I can only play them into Connecticut or Rhode Island. And I'm going to play them into Rhode Island here. I could play them into both, but I think I'll do that because I'm going to try to get Boston right off the bat. Okay, cards. Now, the cards are a little more tough here. I've got to use the truce card in the first turn because I don't have any other movement cards, which I could do. Also, add 2 Native Americans plus all Native American reinforcements. Oh, to all fled. I'm going to, let's use that here. It's a little, well, yeah, we'll go ahead and use that. I'm going to have to add some native troops in. There's 2 as reinforcements. I guess they have to come in here. A little early to play that, but we'll go ahead and do that. So, okay, so I can send that one. Oh, it went back to my deck. There we go. Put it back here. I want to send it here. This is where I'm going to put my discards. I'll just put those right there. Okay, and then the truce means I can move. It gives me quite a few moves, but the problem is I don't have any consolidated army this early on. So I'm going to have to, we know first of all we're going to move on Boston. So let's go ahead and get that there. Let me pop in just a little bit so you can see a little better. There you go. This means more moving around, but I think, like you say, you'll be able to see better. Let's pop this here and pop them back. So we want to keep a garrison there. That would be one move. I've got, we're going to move 2 moves here, 3 moves. I've got 1 more move. I was hoping to move, I think I'll move up here. There we go. Leaves Western Pennsylvania open, but I can at least recruit some natives that way. And so that's all my moves. Now let's do our combat. We've only got 1 combat, and that's going to be right here around Boston. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these guys out. Now, got to remember that let's see, these guys, oh, here, he goes over here. So I've got to remember that the Continental Army only has 2 die. Patriots are using 3 die, so I'm limited. Out of these 4, I can only roll 2 of them each combat round. Okay, but we start with the the militia in yellow, the Tory militia, and they get a flee. So they flee the battle. Okay, then the two reds go, the two British regulars, 1, and that's and 2. So that would be a retreat and a target. Now, I still think I'm strong enough I can take some of these guys down, so I'm going to go ahead and not leave. Actually, I can't, because looking at this, I can't leave the area. Everybody else is we have American troops surrounding it, so there's nowhere to retreat to. So it's just like the British faced. And I'm going to say the American player is going to send the native guys back to their hand. Okay. So now the American goes, and they use first of all their rebel militia, and they get a flee, or they get a retreat, so that's nothing. And then we have 2 Continental Army dice rolled. 1 is a target, and 2 is a target. So that's it for the British. Return to hand and return to hand. And that leaves all of these guys, more than I needed, in Boston. And Massachusetts now is controlled by the Americans. So came out okay. Didn't want to use that truce card that early, but that's such is life. Okay, so I'm going to put the truce card right here to indicate it's been played. Okay, that ends the... oh, and then the Americans get to draw, let's see, they get to draw 2 cards. So we'll go over here. 1, 2. Benedict Arnold and a movement. Well, at least they get a movement card. It's cool. The British and the Americans get a Benedict Arnold card. Okay, I need to do, there's a couple of games I'd like to do, and do a history of Benedict Arnold. He has a fairly interesting history. I think it's kind of cool. I think I mentioned this before, but he's actually buried in a church in England, and it's in the basement of the church. It was the crypt, and they've since converted the basement crypt into a child daycare center. So he's literally squeezed in between a little kid's aquarium and some pictures on the wall that kids have drawn, and they're sitting there playing in front of his tomb. So just kind of interesting. Okay, enough nattering. I can put the the Continental Army back in the... This is my bag here. Okay, yellow is the Tory militia, and it doesn't quite work so well with this Vassal Module, but so it gets a little bit crazy. Now they have the truce card also, so but I don't think we'll play it. They can play in Dover, they can play in Canada, Quebec, or Nova Scotia. So those are the places they can come in, and I think I'm going to go ahead and come in on Dover here. Nova Scotia is a little bit isolated. Unless I get a boat movement, I can't really play those guys too much. So, okay, and then I can bring my this fled unit back, and now I play cards. I don't really need the extra movement right now, so we're going to go, because we're kind of stuck still. I mean, it'd be kind of nice in Virginia. I guess I could move. I've got 3. That's plenty. Okay, so we're going to move here. Now, a movement of 2 would put me in Maryland, which is what I want. 4 and 5. I'm going to use that and keep a garrison of 2. That's one of my moves. My second move, I think I'll move here. I can move 2 areas. 1, 2. And for my third movement, I'm going to move into there, so I can get those native units. Okay, I've got 1 battle, and it's going to be a Patriot militia, Continental Army against 4 Tory militias. So we'll start with the Patriot militia. They roll a target, so this guy's destroyed. The Continental Army rolls a flee. And then we have 4 rolls of the Tory militia. 1, 2 is a flee. 3, another flee. And 4, nothing. Okay, we'll stay put. Okay, that forces the rebel militia to go. Gets a target, so he ends up in the boneyard. And they flee. So we weren't able to take it. All those cards, and we still didn't take it. That happens a lot in this game. I'm going to open this up. I have to actually do this by hand, so we'll move them right here. And we can send this to as a movement card. And then we can draw one card. Yeah, I can make this a short game with all these truce cards around. And you got another movement. Okay, that's good. And this returns to the bag. It's now time for the redcoats to go. So bring in their four guys. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll play Burgoyne. And he gives me 2 extra. And for movement, I'll use my 2. And I'll play these guys right here. And we want to try Maryland again. And that's my one of my moves. And then the other one, I think we're going to move. We're going to move into Maine, right there. Okay, so we've got 2 battles to fight. We'll start with the battle up in Maine. And we start with a Patriot militia. They get a flee, so they come down here. Then we have the Continental Army, and they knock one of my guys out for the British, and then the British go. Continental, we start with the Tory militia, get 1 shot with them. Nothing, and then 2 the redcoats, 1, 2. Okay, and that sends him to the boneyard. Okay, he goes here. And Maine is now under British control. Okay, the other one, I guess I can play that as a movement card, is down here, and the Patriot militia gets to go, and they end up getting one of these guys. Okay, now the British get to go, the British regulars, and they have 5 shots, and we have to play them, or we have to play 3 of them. We don't play all 5. Okay, we're gonna have 3. 1, 2, 3. Reason being is in case there's any fleds, extra fleds. So turn to hand. Okay, and so these guys are all there. We still don't control Maryland, though. Okay, finally the rebel patriot militia gets to go, and they're going to play another truce card too. So, and we have 3 places we can come in. We can come in Massachusetts. We can come in Connecticut, or we can come in Rhode Island. I think I'm going to play this into Connecticut. 3, and actually I'll put this guy here in Massachusetts. Oh, nope, I can't, because I just realized this. I have to play it into a place where there's a city. I forgot that. So central Massachusetts here, this is up in Lovecraft country. They can't, so they have to come in Boston. That's okay. Okay, playing our cards. Oh, and I've got a fled unit. Fled unit, you're going to come in here. I think we're going to try to contest New York there. Maybe try to take New York City. That'd be interesting. Okay. Now play a card. We got to play the truce card. Man, that let us play 8 units. Let's do it. 8 units, 1. We're going to have a ridiculous amount of moves. Okay. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Let me go back here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Try to take Savannah. 4, 5, and we're going to invade New York. 6, 7, and 8. There we go. There's no stacking in this, so you can get pretty crazy. Okay. So Sons of Liberty did their thing, and the truce card gets played. I'll put this over. So 2 truce cards have already been played. Okay, let's do our little battles here, and we'll start with the Tory Militia. They get 1 and a hit and 2 hits, okay? Return to hand, and then the Patriots go. 1, 2. They flee. And now the rebels, or the Tories go. 1, 2, and that eliminates him. So the British keep control of Savannah. Okay, moving up the coast here. See if I don't want to miss anything. Big fight's going to be around New York on Long Island. And this is kind of nice because I can use, to my advantage, I can use those 3 die with the militia. Okay. Got to remember the natives are allied with the Americans. So we'll start with the Tories. 1, nothing, 2, nothing. Okay. Then the redcoats go. 1, nothing, 2, a target. So that'll send the natives back to their hand. Then we go with 3 shots from the militia, the Patriot militia. 1, 2, 3. So 1 flee and 2 against these militia guys. 1, 2. Okay, redcoats are going to go. 1, 2. So they, and then the Patriots are going to go. Nothing. And the 2 shots from the Continental Army. 1, 2, nothing. Okay, redcoats. 1, 2. So they, and the Continental Army. 1, 2. So return to hand, and one of these guys fled. He fled. Okay. Next turn, the redcoats are going to go, and they're going to go ahead and leave. So that was a pretty bloody battle for New York City. The Patriots were able to take it, but it cost them a lot. So, okay, up here, nothing. So, and that's, I think, it for the turn. So we can draw 2 cards. 1, 2. We get Declaration of Independence and a movement card. Okay. And that is it. They put this guy back, and that ends turn 1. So we can hit the turn marker. Turn marker is going to go to 2. We're going to draw. Let's see. Let's just see what our score is here. I'm just keeping score here. So the British have 1, 2, 3 areas. The Americans have 3. British have 4. Okay, so it's 4-3. And the Patriots get to go first. Oh, I forgot these guys coming back in. I think these fled the battle, so they're okay. Okay, start with the Patriots. They get 4 markers normally. 3. For some reason they return over here. I've got to remember that. And the Hessian markers end up in all sorts of weird places. So, okay, here and here. Again, I've got 3 places I can bring them back in. So far, I think the next big thing is going to be to okay, so again, this is fairly accurate historically, being that this part of New England was kind of the hotbed of the Revolution. I don't know whether everything's going to shift south or not, like it did in the real war, but okay. Now we can play a card, and our cards are going to be our movement, and this is a nice movement card. I think we'll save Benedict Arnold for now. We will save him. So I can move 4 armies. Now this army I think is going to be crucial. And they can move 1. We need to get everybody out of Connecticut and Massachusetts, and we need to get here and here. So let's go ahead, and we're going to spend two moves to get out of here, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's 2. We'll move 3 here. We'll move 4 here, and we'll move. I'm going to take that 4 back. We're going to move 4 here. Okay. So we don't have to fight for New York City again. And I think that's my 4, and we will put that for. And like I say, sometimes this doesn't always work. Let's just stack all our discards together. Just keep things orderly. Okay. Now we can resolve the 2 battles. We're going to battle for Upper New Hampshire and for parts of Maine. And let's start with Maine first. This is going to be the bigger of the 2. So yellow gets to go first and rolls a hit. So we'll send this guy. And then the 2 British armies, regular army, are going to go. 1, 2. Both of them hit. So return to hand. Return to hand. Now, we can only use 2 of the Continental Army. And so I should have put a Continental Army back and left the rebel militia, and then I would have had 3 shots, but I only get 2. So I guess you've got to be careful on how you remove those. I need to remember that. Okay, so 3 shots, or 2 shots, 1 and 2, and both of these guys flee. Ouch. Okay. British get to go again, and nothing from him, and this is going to return to hand. So they're able to repel the Continental Army through bad play on my part. Okay, up here we have 1 shot from yellow, nothing, and then 2 from white, 1, 2, a flee and a hit. And then blue gets a flee, so he goes off here too. Yeah, I think you have to. I assume you have to fight the battle out to the bitter end there. Don't think you can stop mid-battle there. Everybody, since it's basically resolved simultaneously. So, okay, well, it was a costly fight, but we were able to take New Hampshire, and that I think is the end of the turn. So we can draw. Got another movement card. I'll just take these guys and put them over here. Okay, put this guy back in the draw sack, and the redcoats get to go now. They get their 4. I didn't draw for them earlier. That's okay. Okay. Well, we can put some guys into New York City. We can move quite a bit. We've got some pretty good moves, and we can bring some guys into Nova Scotia. So that's always worth it. I think I'll hold off on this card, and I'll use this card as their movement. Hold on, I'm playing out of sequence here. Let's put these guys in first. Yeah, we could get New York City back. Let's try that. Wait, no, I can't go there. I'm getting ahead of myself. I've got to go to colonies I control. So we're going to go to Dover. Everybody will go to Dover. Okay, now I can play my 6 Hessians into Halifax, Nova Scotia. Even if enemies are present, so... Was that 6? That is 6, wow. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a lot of Hessians. Okay. Now I can move. So we're back. It's copacetic now. 2 armies can move 3. I'm tempted to keep going with Nova Scotia, but I think what we're going to use these guys down here, we're going to try to take Maryland. Then maybe we can get Maryland, then we can get Virginia, and at least try to take the South. So we're going to go, they can move 2, up to 3. Okay, so these guys are going to move. That's 1 army moving, and then that's 2 armies moving. So that's both my armies, and we'll send that to movement card. And we just have 1 battle to resolve. So basically we have 3 rebel militia. So they get 1 shot against the British. And we'll take this guy out. Or no, the British get to choose who they take out. That was what got me last. So yeah, we're going to take a British unit out. That will give us an extra die roll. Okay. Now the British get to go, and they get a 1, and that'll take this guy out. They get a 2 and a 3. So yeah, that actually came out to my favor doing it that way. So you live and learn. A little bit of simple tactics there. Okay. The Americans are going to go. They get a flee and a hit. So this one will flee. And who will take the hit? I think we'll take the hit with this guy. And that. Then the British will go. And they flee. 2-0, 3-0. Okay, Americans go. They flee. Okay, and so the England gets control of Maryland. There they go. Okay. We check our cards. Whoops, I think I will overdrew. Whoops, come back here. Come on, get where you need to go. There we go. Okay. They got lots of nice movement in the next turn. And we will put them back. And we go to the Patriot Militia. They have lots of cubes coming back. And then they get 4 more to bring in. And they can come in, again, back in the colonies here. They can come in New Hampshire. Let's bolster New Hampshire a little bit. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll come back. We'll put another one here in Connecticut. Or no, can't go there. He's got to go to Boston. No, wait, Hartford's in there. There's Hartford. It's hiding. Okay. So yeah, you can come back in Hartford. Okay. We play our card. And our cards are going to be a movement of 2. Betsy Ross would be nice if I'm attacking someplace that has a lot of yellow guys. Where's the yellow guys? Oh, we're not in Georgia at all anymore. Well, I think we're going to play the Declaration of Independence here. So I guess that's about right for the year and everything. So we need to move 2. We'll move here. That's 1. And there's 2. Oh, I got one more move. I got 3 guys can move up to 2. There's always tough choices in this. I've got one more move. Let's go ahead and move into Pennsylvania here. Yeah. I'm going to move there. Okay. And battles. I think I just got this battle here. Nope, nobody else. Trying to move in here. Hopefully I can use, I'll have some 1 cards I can use pretty soon and then attack in Pennsylvania. Hopefully I can goose these guys up just a little bit. Okay, over here. We start with the Tory militia. And they get nothing, and then the 2 red guys get to go. And they hit. So we'll hit with one of these guys. And this guy. And then the 2 rebel militia go. 1, flee, I ignore. 2, no, I don't ignore the flee. I didn't use the Betsy Ross card. Yeah, ignore the flee. Ignore the flee, ignore the flee. Yep, ignore the flee. Here I was yakking. Let me re-roll it again. Okay, so these 2 are going to go against these 3. And so we go 1, 2. 1 hit and 1 flee I ignore. So I'll take the hit here. As the British, okay, British get to go. 1, nothing. And 2, a hit. And then the Patriots are going to go, and they get a hit against the British. We'll send this guy back here. And then the British go, and I think I'll pull back at this point. Yeah, it leaves me pretty isolated up here. Okay. And that's it for the Patriot militia move. So we can bring their cards back up. Okay, and then we put him in the bag. Okay, that moves us to our yellow guys. They've got yellow guys have a lot of things they can do, but only 1. Oh my gosh, they could play the truce card. That would leave us with 1 truce card remaining. I think I'll hold off. I've got 1 movement, but it could move up to 5. That other card doesn't help a lot. So we need to bring her. We got a lot of guys to bring back too. So we're going to go this 4. Oh, and Maine is no longer. I'll just pull Maine aside down here. Maine's no longer under British control. Okay. So I can bring in these guys. And we've got 4 more other guys we can bring in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll bring them in here down in Delaware. And who's going to move? Now they can move up to 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. But only a single army can move. I'll keep a guy there. Okay, big Hessian force is coming through Maine. Things are getting a little bit ahistorical here, and that's about all I can do. So we'll send this to the movement cards. We'll draw a card. Not this guy. And... okay, so next turn the Tory militia is going to have to play their truce card. Okie doke. And that ends the second round. So we can go to turn marker and a round marker, and we can draw. Okay, so the British side's basically going to go first, followed by the American side. This could be... the British could tie this up pretty quick. British have 1, 2, 3, 4 areas. The Americans have 4 areas, so everything's tied up. Let's see what the British hand looks like. They don't have a... who's got the last truce marker? Okay, so the British don't have a truce marker yet. Truce card. If the British had the truce card, what I would do is just try to eliminate them from... try to take an area as hard as I could and then just play my truce card. So, okay. Let's bring the British in. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to play this and this. I'll hold off on those cards first of all. Bring in our guys first. Dover's just filling up with guys, and then where'd my other card go? There it is. Okay, I had 2 regulars and 2 Hessians in New York City, so we're going to do that. And here's our 2 Hessians. Okay. Now we can move, so those guys can go, they're gone, and now we can do our movement. 3 armies can move, each of them can move 1. So, well, obviously we want to take here. Okay, there's going to be this big army moving here. So that's 2 armies that I've moved. I have a 3rd army that I can move. I think we're going to move up into Pennsylvania around Philadelphia. Okay, that was my 3rd army. We've got to attack. We've got a battle here and a battle here. So we can maybe try to at least, I think these guys will get whooped up on, but they'll at least try to maybe weaken the Americans on New York City. Okay, let's start up at Maine. Maine has a rebel and they flee the battle. Okay, so Maine goes back to British control. And then in New York City, we have a, first of all, a rebel goes and he flees the battle. Then we have 2 of these 3 Continental Army can fight 1, 2, and they... I'll take a Hessian. Actually, I'm going to take a British regular out. Okay, British get to go with 1 regular. Whoops. And that's a Continental Army destroyed, and then 2 Hessians. 1, 2. Another Continental Army destroyed. Okay, Continental Army gets to go. Definitely flee, and that leaves New York City. And that ends the British turn. Let's see what they got for cards. We draw 2. 1, 2. Light Dragoons and a... Okay, and this is a truce. So the truce card could come in kind of handy here. Next turn. We'll see how things go. Okay. Now, yellow gets to go. The other thing is, sometimes they return, these fled markers return over here and are hiding behind this Patriot guy here. So, okay, yellow can come in at, we've got several places we can come in now. New Jersey. I think we're going to come in at Dover. And I think we'll send some guys here to Nova Scotia. I'm a little bit concerned about a American attack on Nova Scotia at this point. Okay, now what do we have for a hand? Okay, yellow has a truce marker. It's kind of good, kind of bad. This doesn't do much good, having the fleeing the Patriots. The Queens, this movement, plus the movement to all armies move this turn. I don't think I'm going to have to move that far. I don't think. Okay, let's play it. I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to take New Hampshire. Actually, I am going to play that. I've seen what I can do here. Okay, so we're going to try to take New Hampshire. And this is going to be 1 movement. And then 2 movement. 3 movement. And then these guys are going to move 1, 2, 3. They can move 3 now because of this Queen's range. At least it'll let me keep Maine protected. And that's it. Okay, so that's my... Yeah, that's going to be... I did the 1 and 2, 3, and 4. So there we go. Okay, this goes to the truce hand. And the battles, well, you just never, it doesn't feel like you ever have enough to win these fights. Because I was really wanting to get these guys moved around Pennsylvania and try to take New Jersey. Okay, going to try to chase the Patriots out of New Hampshire. So we're going to start with the Patriot militia going, and they get nothing, followed by the Continental Army. Gets a hit against, I'm going to take a Hessian out. A Haitian? Not Haitian, they're not from Haiti. Okay. Hessian goes and avenges himself. The Continental Army goes and they avenge themselves. And then the Tories go and they flee the battle. Okay. Up here, the single lonely Patriot militia goes, and I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it. So New Hampshire falls into British hands again. That's it. So we can move here, and cards, need 2 more cards. Okay. Next, let's see, Continental Army is going to go. So we bring in these guys. They come back. And we get 4 troops back here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not many places I can go from. I'm still back to fighting from Boston again. So I guess we'll come back from Boston to... and some guys in Hartford. Okay. And neither side can really win this with a giant majority of... I think you'd have to be pretty darn good to get all the colonies, but or even to get more than just a handful apiece. But let's go ahead and go now. Let's see what we've got for cards. Got a movement of 3 for 1 unit. This isn't really going to help us having George Washington. Oh, I can move one more army than the number depicted. Yes, it does help me. Okay, we're going to do that. This is getting desperate. So we need to try to move some armies out. A ship would have been nice. I could have hit Nova Scotia, but I'm thinking about trying to take New York, but I don't think I can. Well, I guess we're going to try to do this. We're going to fight for New Hampshire again. And then the other attack I'm going to make is I can move up to 3. So I'm going to move these guys over here. And we're going to try fight Fort Ticonderoga. Okay, so we return our George goes back to here. And Benedict Arnold is going to come into play. So we'll start with the battle here, and this is going to go here, and then Benedict Arnold will stay and play here. And we will start the fight here, and the Hessians will get to go first. And they're able to take out a guy. I'm going to lose one. Then the British go, and nothing there. They're going to stay. They're going to stay placed because they're going to fight to the death here. Okay, then the the rebel militia goes. They're not going to do anything, and then Continental Army goes, and they take out the Hessian. Okay, back to the British. British get nothing. I think I'll stay put, okay? And then the British did nothing. The rebels go, nothing. And the Continental Army goes, nothing. Okay, British go. They're able to eliminate him. Continental Army goes, eliminates the British. Again, they paid dearly for that, so nobody fled. So Benedict Arnold didn't give us much that time. What a traitor. Okay. And then there was another battle around Fort Ticonderoga. Basically a Continental Army and some Indians attacking. And so Fort Ticonderoga goes, first of all, with the Tories. And the Tories flee the battle. This is followed by the Redcoats, and they able to take an Indian out. Then the 2 Indians go, and they eliminate him. And we do check to see if there's no flee, so that's it so Fort Ticonderoga falls to the Americans. So basically, Americans just have to take these guys out, and they've got New York. Oh, they're down here. I guess New York City is New York City proper. Okay, we draw for cards. I need one more. Yeah, hopefully you guys are finding these relatively entertaining. It's kind of sometimes hard to keep the dialogue up, so if you get these long moments of silence on my videos, it's just like I say, sometimes it's hard to come up with commentary. And man, I have a hard time going back and listening to a lot of these because sometimes I feel like I say the dumbest things. I guess you're getting a pretty unfiltered view of my ideas in life, but okay. Bringing back some rebel militia. They get 4 more units. Let's see where we're going to go. We didn't control any new areas, so we're going to have to build up at Hartford. Put a little bit of Boston, but I think everybody else is going to build up around Hartford because we're going to attack New York City. Okay, checking our cards. 1 goes 3. Oh, 2 goes 2. This is what I need. I need this guy here. And this guy. Okay. So let's take these guys here, and we're going to have 2 armies moving 2. So we're going to take this guy from Albany and go here. And we're going to take all of these guys. And try to take Long Island. So, and we have Betsy Ross. So all loyalists that flee are going to be replaced with patriots. Kind of a nice little card. Doesn't help much down here, but I think it'll help up here. Okay. So the British have 3 Indian units and 2 Tories. So let's start with the Indians, and we get 1, 2, 3. So they got 2 hits already. Tories go twice. 1, 2. They get a hit. And then the Continental Army goes and gets nothing. Man, I could try. I'll try. No. I'll use that nothing as a chance to escape backwards. So we'll go there. Well, Betsy, we tried. Okay, down here, a little more complex battle. I just realized too, those Indians would have fought with 2. So they only had 2 dice. They don't have 3. But we've already gone there, so. Don't think it would have changed the outcome too much, but okay. Hessians do have 2 die, so we'll have to remember that. And they start the battle with a hit. I'll take the hit on this guy. The lobsterbacks go, and they get a hit. Okay, now then 3 shots from the Patriots. 1, 2, 3. And they got 2 fleas. 2 fleas. And the Continental Army goes and gets nothing. Okay, goes back to the Hessians. 1, 2. Both hits. The Patriots go and they flee. The Continental Army goes and they flee. So pretty much a wasted turn for them. Okay, and that ends the round. I get confused because this uses rounds and turns interchangeably from what most games use, but that's okay. Okay, go to our next turn. Oh, I forgot to bring back some cards. So yeah, I should have played that Indian card just twice, but like I said, I don't think it would have changed the outcome too much, and I'm not going to go back and confuse everybody. I do that. You guys are fairly forgiving. Once in a while, somebody will say, "Why'd you do that? You can't do that." And sometimes if I really screw up, I'll go back and replay the turn. But at this point, I'm just going to kind of keep going. I think it gets kind of boring to watch me replay turns. Okay, we need to go set up for the turn, or the round. And we pull our turn sequence. Okay, so now, again, it's looking, this is a good sequence for the British. And since they have this card, I think they're going to pretty much win the game. What we've got to do is we've got to push them out of New Hampshire, push the Continental Army out of New Hampshire. Probably not going to do much in New York. We could maybe try to take New Jersey. That's a possibility. So let's pull these guys. I don't think I'm out of units. I've got 2 left, so I only get 2 that I can bring in, and I'll bring them in at Dover. Yeah, I think this is the way to win the game here. So we're gonna check my cards. If my cards are good, I got 3 cards. This guy does nothing. But we'll play John Butler, and we'll play the 2 for movement. And I think when I bring these guys in, I think I'm going to bring... I brought 4 in. I'm going to bring them in here instead. So we are going to go back and do that. Okay. So now I have 2 that can move 1. So I'm going to move all of these guys into New Hampshire. I'm going to move all of these guys into New Jersey, and I'll keep 1 and 1 of each just in case. And that's my 2 movements. Okay. So now, and then John Butler, I get 1 free attack before each battle, and execute only hit results. So fleas don't count. So we're going to roll our 1 attack here in New Jersey. And it did nothing. And then we're going to roll 1 attack. We'll finish the battle in New Jersey. Let's start with the Patriot Militia. They get nothing. The Continental Army gets a hit. I'm going to take it out of here. Okay, and then I get 3 rolls with the Tories. They got 2 of those as fleas. I get 2 rolls with the lobsterbacks. Nothing. Okay, go back to the Americans and the rebels go. Nothing. Continental Army goes. Nothing. Okay, then we got our Tories. Nothing. And then 2 rolls for the British regulars. 1, 2. Okay, that takes him out. Americans can't go anywhere, so they have to fight to the end. And they're going to fight, and they get a roll against... I'll take this guy out. I need to return those to hand. Okay, and then the Tories go, and they are able to eliminate the Continental Army. And that turns New Jersey over to the British. Okay. John Butler, you get to go again, and you get a flea, which we ignore. So we can send John Butler to the stack, and now we can fight this out regular. So we've got 1 shot from the Continental Army, and then we're going to have 3 rolls from the Tories. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's it. Okay, I think that's going to be the game. Okay, we've got all our battles. We get 2 more cards. 1, 2. And New Hampshire goes back to the British. Okay, so we can go Great British then. Okay, now it's time for the British, and I think this is going to end it. We're going to play our truce card, obviously, and bring in our units. Now, I don't know whether you can actually play out the truce or not. I'm going to go ahead and play out the turn and then at the end of the turn, play out that turn sequence, and then that will end the game. I don't know whether this stops play immediately. I think the rules, they may have addressed that, but I can't, off the top of my head, I don't remember. 1, 3, and see this Hessian guy. These Hessians ended up hiding out in there too. I guess they're allies. So, okay, bringing him in. Controlled areas. I'm going to bring him in at Falmouth, Halifax. Oh, Portsmouth. We can bring him in at Portsmouth. I'll bring in those guys. So there we go. Okay, and movement. I could move into areas. Don't think I'm going to take Pennsylvania, and I'd be pretty hard pressed to take anywhere. So I think I'm going to just, I could just waste the turns and move them around and run the clock down. So I think I'll do that. We send this to the over here, and that ends the game. So the British have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 areas, and the colonials have 3. The Americans have 3. I don't think anything. Yeah, not much happened in the South. It's hard to get the oh, that guy. I forgot about that card. It's really hard to get things established, especially North Carolina. You got to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regions, and way back there, Georgia might not be so hard, but and you're going to have to use ships to get them down. I guess again that was like the real war where they had to move down to Charleston and Savannah and disembark where the British did. So anyway, that's what I got. Fun game. I think I like this game quite a bit. This whole series of games is kind of fun, but I think this one's really good. I'm going to, a couple weeks, I'll do the 1812 one, which follows pretty much the same rules for this system, but pretty simple, not real simulationist, but like I say, it's kind of a fun game. Okay, that's what I got. I appreciate you guys watching, and we will talk to you later. Bye.